Hello, my name is Gulnaz.
I am Mohammed Ansari with Morrison Urena. In this video, we'll share with you some common mistakes to avoid when entering the Diversity Visa Lottery program.
Entrants who are selected in the program must meet simple but strict eligibility requirements to be eligible for a diversity visa. The Department of State determines selectees through a randomized computer drawing.
The only official website to register for the upcoming diversity visa is dvprogram.state.gov. Even if you're randomly selected, it does not mean that you're guaranteed a visa. Unfortunately, many selectees make mistakes during the registration process that cause them to be disqualified at the interview. Therefore, it is important to take your time and carefully complete the form when applying for the DV lottery.
The online registration period for the DV program usually runs from early October to early November.
More information about the exact date will be posted on the Department of State's webpage. The link could be found below in the description box. Eligibility. Listing an incorrect country of eligibility, or more formally known as chargeability, will make you ineligible for the DV lottery. Which means, listing a country to which you cannot establish a valid claim will make you ineligible for the DV lottery. Who is eligible to apply for the DV program? According to the Department of State's website, travel.state.gov, you must be a native of a country with historically low rates of immigration to the United States. In other words, you must be born in an eligible country, regardless of your current country of residence or nationality. The list of countries eligible to participate in the upcoming DV selection is listed in the DV instructions. They are grouped by geographic region. Generally, the country of chargeability is the same as a country of birth.
If you were not born in a qualifying country listed in the instructions, you may claim your country of chargeability as the country of birth of your spouse. Meaning, if your derivative spouse was born in an eligible country, you may claim chargeability to that country. As your eligibility is based on your spouse, you will only be issued an immigrant visa if your spouse is also eligible for and issued an immigrant visa. Both of you must enter the United States together using your DV immigrant visas. Similarly, your minor dependent child can be charged to a parent's country of birth.
If you were not born in a qualifying country listed in the instructions, you might also be eligible to apply by claiming chargeability to the country of birth of either of your parents, as long as neither of your parents was a resident of your country of birth at the time of your birth. If you claim alternate chargeability through either of the above, you must provide an explanation on the DV entry form in question number 6.
Enter only once. You can submit only one entry per eligible applicant during the annual registration period. Otherwise, you will be disqualified. However, each spouse in a married couple can enter the lottery.
Passport. In order to be eligible for a DV visa, you must provide accurate passport details, unless you qualify for an exemption. It should be a valid, unexpired international travel passport, not a regional passport. Under no circumstances should you make up a passport number.
Correctly spell your last family name, first name, middle name, exactly as it appears in your passport. Incorrect spelling on the entry can make the entrant ineligible for a visa. It is okay if at the time of the entry your passport expires soon. You can renew your passport and, if selected, inform the consular center about the renewal.
There are 3 limited exemptions from the passport requirement. Number 1. Individuals who are stateless. Number 2. Nationals of communist-controlled country who are unable to obtain a passport from the government of the communist-controlled country. Number 3. Beneficiaries of individual waivers approved by the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Secretary of State. If you selected one of these exemptions on your DV entry, you will be required to explain how you meet the exemption you selected. The exemptions apply only to individuals who are unable to obtain a passport. If you selected an exemption because of a delay in obtaining your passport, whether or not that delay was within your control, you do not qualify for an exemption and you will be ineligible for a diversity visa. You can check passport requirements for specific countries via the link provided in the description box titled US Visa, Reciprocity and Civil Documents by Country.
Entrants from the former Soviet Union sometimes confuse a middle name with a patronymic name that is written in their passport in their native language but not in English. Generally, a patronymic name is not considered a middle name. Indicating your patronymic name as a middle name could also lead to disqualification. Please enter your name as it is indicated on the Latin translation in your passport.
Date of birth. It is important to provide the correct date of birth according to the format, month, followed by the day, followed by the year. Some countries use different date formats. For example, day followed by the month, followed by the year. If you use this format, it would be considered as a mistake and could make you ineligible for a visa. For example, if you were born on April 13, 1988, you would enter 04-13-1988.
Education. You must provide information on the highest level of education you have achieved as of today. U.S. immigration law and regulations require that every DV entrant must have at least a high school education or its equivalent or have 2 years of work experience within the past 5 years in an occupation that requires at least 2 years of training or experience.
A high school education or equivalent is defined as successful completion of a 12-year course of elementary and secondary education in the United States, or the successful completion in another country of a formal course of elementary and secondary education comparable to a high school education in the United States.
Vocational high schools are also qualified, but not technical craft schools. If your high school was part-time, then you can qualify only if you have completed college. If you are 17 years old and you are going to complete high school next summer, then you can apply too.
You must present documentary proof of education or work experience to the consular officer at the time of the visa interview. If you do not meet the requirements for education or work experience, you will be ineligible for a diversity visa.
Current marital status. A common mistake that entrants make is they add false information about their marital status. Failure to list your eligible spouse or listing someone who is not your spouse at the time of the entry can be a basis of disqualification. If you are legally married, you must list your spouse regardless of whether he or she lives with you or intends to immigrate to the United States. You must list your spouse even if you currently are separated from him or her, unless you are legally separated.
Legal separation is an arrangement when a couple remain married but live apart following a court order. If you and your spouse are legally separated, your spouse will not be able to immigrate with you through the diversity visa program. You will not be penalized if you choose to enter the name of a spouse from whom you are legally separated. If you're not legally separated by a court order, you must include your spouse, even if you plan to be divorced before you apply for the diversity visa. Failure to list your eligible spouse will make you ineligible for a diversity visa.
If you are not married at the time of entry, but plan on getting married in the future, do not list a spouse on your entry form, as this would make you ineligible for a DV. If you are divorced or your spouse is deceased, you do not have to list your former spouse.
If your spouse is a US citizen or lawful permanent resident, you do not list him or her in your entry. A spouse who is already a US citizen or legal permanent resident will not require or be issued a visa. In that case, you have to select the option, married and my spouse is a US citizen or US legal permanent resident, on your entry, and you will not be prompted to include further information on your spouse.
Children. You must provide all living unmarried children under 21 years of age, regardless of whether they are living with you or intend to accompany or follow to join you should you immigrate to the United States. Submit individual photographs of each of your children using the same technical specifications as your own photograph. Be sure to include all living natural biological children, all living children legally adopted by you, and all living stepchildren who are unmarried and under the age of 21 on the date of your electronic entry, even if you are no longer legally married to the child's parent, and even if the child does not currently reside with you and or will not immigrate with you.
Married children and children who are already aged 21 or older when you submit your entry are not eligible for the DV program. However, the Child Status Protection Act protects children from aging out in certain circumstances. If you submit your DV entry before your unmarried child turns 21 and the child turns 21 before visa issuance, it is possible that he or she may be treated as though he or she were under 21 for visa processing purposes.
A child who is already a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident when you submit your DV entry will not require or be issued a diversity visa. You will not be penalized for either including or omitting such family member from your entry. Failure to list all children or stepchildren who are eligible or listing someone who is not your child will make you and your beneficiaries ineligible for a DV.
Digital photograph. Digital photos of the main entrant and each family member should be uploaded correctly and applied to the right family member. There have been disqualifications for applying photos to the wrong family member. DV entry photos must be of the same quality and composition as US visa photos. Do not submit a photograph older than 6 months or a photograph that does not meet all of the standards described below. Submitting the same photograph that you submitted with a prior year's entry, a photograph that has been manipulated, or a photograph that does not meet the specifications below will make you ineligible for a DV. Your photos or digital images must be taken in the last 6 months prior to the application to reflect your current appearance, taken in front of a plain white or off-white background, taken in full face view directly facing the camera, in color and in focus, in JPEG format. Minimum size is 600 by 600 pixels. The file size should be less or equal to 240 kilobytes. Minimum resolution is 300 pixels per inch. Specifications: no glasses, no foggy photo, no shadows, and no group photo.
When taking a photo of your baby or toddler, no other person should be in the photo, and your child should be looking at the camera with his or her eyes open. Make certain there are no shadows on your baby's face, especially if you take a picture from above with the baby laying down.
We hope you have found these tips helpful. From the whole team at Morrison Urena,
Good luck with your DV 2023 lottery entry.